What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets. Haber, we're back. We're back.
Yes.
We finally got the duo back. I'm a little under the weather with I just got my little booster shot, but Sheets, talk about your, tell us a quick sum up of your vacation, and then we'll jump into the monster.
Vacation was good. Well, from what I'm hearing, you don't need me around. I mean, I see Bobby cashing all over the freaking place. So I'm glad to see that Bobby's doing well in all the different sports. And who posted this about? I think Draft Cheat posted this on Twitter. It's like, maybe this is a bad take, but I think this NBA is like more fun with all these guys dropping out of COVID and all this stuff. And I comment, it's certainly more fun and certainly more profitable for the people willing to put in the work, which I might not be, but the people like Bobby who are really, put in the work to get this stuff right. It's a huge, huge edge, So let's now that I'm back and hone in on it, maybe I'll continue to pile on with Bobby with this stuff. Now, again, remember, this is like early look, and it's very likely that nobody we mentioned is going to be playing tonight.
Right, everything will change. Right.
Yeah, but it's still good to get a framework of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that we've been paying attention to lately, I mean, you could really capitalize on some really obvious situations. And last night when they announced, Duke in the starting lineup, and now Duke had a monster game or whatever, but on a 3-game slate, with a team with 8 players, you have a guy playing 40 minutes or whatever he played, Kessler Edwards, who was 1% owned on a 3-game slate at the minimum. And if you put, all you had to do to win last night was play those two guys together. I had one lineup such as that. And if not for the overtime game, I would have won the rotation player. I was actually in first place going into that, but it was only for 6K. So it wasn't like the worst beat of all time or anything like that. Okay. But anyway, yeah, well, let's get into it, because all the early value, I think we're mostly going to end up probably scrapping by the end of the day. We're going to hear about a million more COVID things. I think most slates like this size, you're going to start seeing games canceled. It's just the trend is going so astronomically, unlike anything we've seen except for the very beginning of when the pandemic, when things were hitting. Everybody's out. I mean, you have the Bulls who have 10 guys out. They're going to miss a few games. I just have a feeling we're gonna hear about a million different things. I don't think that
you ready for this, Bobby? So there are about, of the people that are in my survivor pool, probably about 11, at least. If whoever, let's say everybody wins this week, okay, on Christmas Day, probably like half of them are gonna have Green Bay over Cleveland. Dude, check this out. So the way the NFL rules work, let's just say that let's say even Cleveland can't field the team, and they postpone the game and they play Monday night, everybody loses.
Oh my God, is that real?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They got to play the game and finish it before the end of that week.
Oh my God, that is wild.
Yeah, so
boy, that's rough.
It's a lot of variance out there.
That's
right, so I shared my screen. Let's hopefully these games go off. There's a hockey game that was canceled last night, by the way.
Yeah,
has been in the NBA games canceled. Yeah,
yesterday, the Bulls games, right? Yeah, they're missing the next couple also. All right, so we'll see what happens with these guys, but yeah. So start us off with the Houston Cleveland thing, because I'm not overly interested in this game. There's a couple guys I like, but I'm not like, I think Deshaun Tate is basically my level of interest for the most part.
Well, fortunately, there's only one guy that's showing up on this whole slate that I've never heard of, and that's you. That's usually they're like 10. But this time, the guy that's showing up that I've never heard of is a guy, Christopher. Josh Christopher at 3,100 is showing up as someone worth mentioning. And you could game log watch and figure out why. I mean, it's 20 minutes plus at 3,100. I mean, you certainly have to consider it. And as of now, there's not all that much value. It's pretty funny. So he's the only guy I really looked at from Houston. I really doubt he's going to be viable by the time 6:30 rolls around. But as of now, that's what I got. And on Cleveland, I have like very weak question mark plays on Lauri Markkanen maybe, or in Kevin Love maybe. But I really feel as though that nothing of this game is going to be viable. But as of now, that's what I have.
Yeah, I think the Markkanen thing is okay. I think Markkanen and Tate are probably the best plays in this game. I don't think that it's exciting to play Markkanen. I don't think it's It's really frustrating because like if Kevin Love could just ever get some minutes, like you could give this guy 30 minutes, he's gonna put up like 40 fantasy points or more every time. I mean, he's putting up 37 and 23, 46 and 22 minutes. Like his fantasy point per minute is just absolutely incredible this season, and he's been terrific in real life. But I think as it stands with the way this Giants slate, I think people are gonna jump at or be excited about the Rubio thing early on, and then I think he'll fade into the oblivion by later. It's been forever since Rubio's put up 30 fantasy points. It's been a while since he's played 30 fantasy minutes. Since he's played 30 real life minutes. I think he's only done it once since November 18th. He's get 30 minutes once. It is a great matchup, but Deshaun Tate is my highest level of interest currently in this game. I just don't see myself getting to anybody else. And Christopher, the only other one though that I want to mention on FanDuel is I do think Armani Brooks at 4,800 on FanDuel is in play and okay on DraftKings, but like I think I'd rather go other places. He got hurt for a little while in the last game, but had put up 30 or more in the previous 3 games, and it's a guy who actually did really, really well for me for a couple big slates. So that 6 to 7x definitely seems like it's at least got a possibility, but it is a tough matchup. So probably not going to happen on DraftKings, but Armani Brooks on FanDuel I think is adequate. All right, Orlando. What do you got for me?
I like Trey. As a matter of fact, I did play during the course when I was away. I'm obviously I didn't put in the most effort, but I did listen to all of your breakdowns, and I was on Trey when you were on Trey the other day, I think, and he had a very, very nice game. I like him tonight. On the Orlando side, Cole Anthony, question mark, sort of. That's how I am with that. And Terrence Ross, maybe. That's, my level of interest there. But I do like Trey. And that's it.
Yeah, I think this game, I feel like I should want more pieces. I do think what Terrence Ross is doing is interesting. They obviously are trying to trade him. It's pretty clear he's getting the run, he's getting the usage lately, and not a whole lot more time. So wondering when they're going to actually be able to make this move. But I've heard a lot of rumors for him being traded soon, and 4,100 probably a little bit more than I'm going to spend on him. I just think there's going to be better value later today, but certainly early in the day, a fine looking, piece of value. The other guys are kind of interesting for me on the Atlanta side. Like, I don't think I can do the TLC thing or anything like that. But what are we doing? Let me just double check that I missed something here. So we officially have, I think Reddish is your large field tournament play. Especially like they could blow this team out and Reddish could get a bunch of extra run down, against a terrible defense. But I think that it's probably just unnecessary on this slate. So I'm probably not going to go with anything. I do think Trey is one of the spend ups I really like. It's a little hard for me to get away from the Jokic, Holiday, Middleton core. So I'm not quite as high on these guys as I usually would be. But I do think that Trey is certainly one of the guys you'd spend up on if you're not going to play Jokic. All right, Miami, Philly.
I don't have much. I have Lowry on the Miami side as being okay, and then I'm back to I have Embiid on Philly. He's questionable, huh? He participated in shoot around on Wednesday.
Well, yeah,
there was a late scratch Monday.
Yeah, he killed 30% of my lineups the other night. It drove me nuts because he was late scratch at almost no ownership, or at like 6% ownership. And he got late scratched like 8 minutes after lock as he was on the court. So that was really
did you play both Trey and Embiid together that night or no?
I did. I believe I did in some lineups. I don't know how many I ended up with, but I did have them in some lineups. Sure.
Because that's what I had. I had either Trey or Embiid. I think in most everything I did.
That was a rough one.
Yeah. Okay. So Embiid was scratched, whatever. So if he's live, he's certainly, as usual. For me at least, a pretty tempting pivot off of Jokic, right? Especially with that big old Q tag and the Miami matchup. But I'm not too worried about that with no Bam. I think Embiid on a big slate, he's going to be pretty ignored. I would imagine. I would hope. So he's always a good tournament play. So I like that, and I like Lowry a little bit.
Yeah, I like Lowry a lot. It's a homecoming game for him. For those of you that aren't familiar, going back, Villanova kid, was the guy they really wanted to get. And separate from all that, it's just the usage has been solid, and we really have to start looking at these guys for raw points. The only problem you're going to have with Lowry is Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are in the same price tier. If you want to play Jokic, also, that's just the way I'm looking at this slate because it's going to be hard to get away from those guys for me. Tyler Hero has consistently let everybody down, but I think that if he's good to go tonight, I will take shots with him on FanDuel probably at 6,200. Generally a better DraftKings kind of player, but I think that there's enough upside for him still. I don't care that he let everybody down so far, that Lowry's been getting all the usage and all that. I think that there's still going to be a game where he breaks out. And I can't, you missed the PJ Tucker night the other night and nobody played him.
I heard about that.
He went just completely ballistic and put up 44, but he's put up 40, 34, and 44 in his last 3 games. That's more fantasy points than he usually scores in a season. It's crazy. So I don't know. I don't think, obviously I'm not chasing that. I just think it's kind of interesting. But I do think Duncan Robinson on DraftKings is a good large field tournament play just because of the ability to hit a bunch of threes and had a decent game a couple games back. Everybody's sort of off of him now. But Lowry's the number one guy here, and I love the Embiid pivot idea. It scares me because those late scratches are brutal. But if you want to play the other side of that late scratch, and Philadelphia should obviously keep this one closer at home, especially against a banged up Miami team. Maybe what you could do is if you're going to play an Embiid lineup, if you're going to play, let's say you're playing 20 lineups, you're playing 2 or 3 Embiid lineups, play one Harris lineup, play one, maybe even a Maxey lineup, because you also have Steph Curry questionable. And if somehow those guys end up being out or limited in any fashion, those guys should have big games. But I don't think you need to do it. I think Embiid and Lowry are where it's at for that game.
All right. Move on to the Lakers, Dallas.
Yep.
So, right. So I don't know what happened with Davis. Oh, he's missed back-to-back. I currently have him projected as out, but I don't know. I guess you could play. LeBron, I currently have as in. Oh, he's probable. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's fine, and I do like both the logical guys on Dallas, that being Brunson and Porzingis. And Porzingis, I mean, he put out a really, really good half. I mean, they didn't need him in the second half, but he was really, really good the other night. He got like 41 fantasy points in the first half.
Yeah,
that's the thing that we've been waiting for with Luke out for 2 years now, right?
Right.
And he finally had a good half like that, and obviously could have done better if the game stayed closer. Mm-hmm. But so I'll go back to that. I'll go back to Brunson. I think they just make a. And I did hear what you said, by the way. It's funny. I listened to your review of the game, and in some sense, I do agree with you that even though you would think that Kristaps would just naturally just eat up everything with Luke out, he just doesn't seem to do it, right? But on the other hand, I mean, like, usage does have to go somewhere, right? So if he's playing well and if he's being super efficient like he was in the last game, he is just going to smash. So I do like him, and I like Brunson. And on the Lakers, I don't like anything except for LeBron. THT's out for COVID, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll talk about this a little bit, but if that's accurate that Westbrook is on a trading block, what does that mean? Does that mean they rest him or they play him?
They're not. They're not resting him. And I honestly think the whole thing is just absolute nonsense.
Okay.
I don't buy any bit of it. First of all, nobody's trying to trade for Westbrook, especially not Philly. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't understand. It just doesn't. It's just nonsense fodder in my opinion. Sure, maybe somebody could take the contract on, but by the way, he's been in like one of the most efficient players in the NBA this month. And without Anthony Davis, the Lakers are actually looked good the other day. So if Anthony Davis doesn't play, maybe they look good again, because he's been just dreadful and looks like an old plodding body at 27. I don't understand what's wrong with him. But anyway, without THT, it should, like, if AD's out, it will open up a bunch of things, which would be Carmelo, which would be and LeBron number 1 and 2, I think, and Westbrook would probably be your third option there. Austin Reeves may creep in for some people. I don't think I could play him on the big slate.
Austin Rivers?
Austin Reeves.
Reeves. Okay.
He's been playing a lot of minutes, and their numbers with him are pretty excellent, especially when they've been using LeBron at the 5 some, and when LeBron's at the 5 and Reeves is on the court, they're one of the best numbers off on in the NBA. I don't know what to do that without Davis. Like, I can't make a decision on what to do with the Lakers. And obviously you can take some Westbrook shots too if he's out. The thing that is interesting about Kristaps is he's going to be low owned tonight, I believe, by the way things are shaking out. So I'll take that shot. I just want to point out that, like, what I said was still true the other day. It was his highest usage game of the season, tied with one other game. I believe is the only time he's been over 30% usage rate. But he had 5 blocks and a half. He shot the ball. What was he? 7 for 16, but I mean, which was incredible. So it was the one time he took more shots was that game. But the other game is not that he never gets there without Luka. It's just that it's not like his minutes go up that much. It's not like his usage goes up very much. Sure, there's going to be extra shots here and there. He went to the line a bunch of times the other night, which was nice. He hasn't been doing that. But I just think, like, he's a good large field. You should treat him when he gets to be that 30+% range. I just don't think you want to be playing that. That's just my personal take. I do like that people are going to be off of Jalen Brunson tonight. I think Jalen Brunson is my favorite play in this game, unless we hear something about AD, obviously. So I really want to get pieces of Jalen Brunson, even at a 6,700 and 6,200 price tag between the two sites. I think, what happened the other night was that they blew him out. There was no need for anything else. Jalen Brunson's going to get 40 most of the time, I feel like, in this spot. And I think Tim Hardaway Jr. makes for a really good tournament play. That's basically it. The large field tournament play would be, like, literally you have to playing a massive tournament, would be Trey Burke. But I don't think you need to do it by any means. I just think that, the guy put up 37 in the last game. And by the way, he did a lot of it early. He just made his first 3 threes or something like that. But Trey Burke would be a good large field tournament play. We probably won't need that value though by the end of the day. But don't worry about the price on Brunson, and take some shots on THJ as well.
So this next game seems to be the obvious, at least to me, game you want to target here. Ownership pushed to the side for a minute. Indiana against Milwaukee. With Giannis out, you're going to get, Middleton and Drew with infinite usage, and they're going to rate to be really, really strong plays. Now, I do see that Middleton's questionable, but according to the notes, it says that it's not a big deal. And both these guys are just too cheap with Giannis out. Particularly, I don't want to say particularly. Both, you know what I mean? Like, I like them both. If you want, you could also, the guy who's like a point per dollar guy that always shows up is Grayson Allen. There's another guy from the Bucks. I didn't really get to too much more. And then they're just incredibly natural runbacks of Brogdon and Sabonis on the other side. Sabonis at 9,500 is, might not be too appealing, but he certainly has that ceiling still. And Brogdon at 7,700 is just, I think he's a great play. But what I want to ask you about is, we'll get to it in a second. First of all, I'm not too I don't wait too much Brogdon going back to Milwaukee anymore. He's done it a bunch of times.
Sure.
He's not that dude anyway. He's just been playing well regardless of where he's playing. But one thing we haven't talked about basically all season is the idea of playing these guards against Drew Holiday, right? You would talk me off of like Damian Lillard against Drew Holiday like multiple times. Are we worried about playing Brogdon with Drew Holiday on him, or is that not the same type of thing? Those are my concerns, but those are my opinions as well.
Well, there's a couple of things that play into this, and I think it's a really good question you brought up, and I agree this because it's in a very important game. Maybe we'll give it a little bit longer. Drew Holiday, so it's a great spot for him, obviously. Historically, he's had very mixed results when he plays against his brother. So honestly, that's one thing I'm watching out for, because obviously nobody knows him better. It's Justin, the older brother thing and everything. He's had very mixed games in this spot. So at 50% ownership, looking for reasons to possibly fade, that's one thing that plays into it. I do want to play Drew Holiday. Don't get me wrong; he's a priority play for me. I'm just trying to find reasons why you might lean one way instead of the other. I think that Chris Middleton has forward eligibility. It gives him a little bit of a boost ahead of Holiday in some sense for me. Although I as an overall raw points, I would take Holiday here. It'd be very close, but I think Middleton becomes a better play for that reason. And then what you just mentioned about Holiday guarding Brogdon, I'm not sure they do that with Giannis out. They'll definitely do it at times. I don't know how much they'll do it, but they're definitely going to do it some. I don't know. I feel like you're gonna want him to carry some of the offensive load, and if anything happens where he is guarding Middleton and that's where his focus on the court is going to be, maybe we just play Middleton and Portis, and then if you want to run back, I still think Brogdon is viable, but it is a good point. Like we should be concerned about this. Oddly, Miles Turner has had some monster games against Milwaukee in the past. It's not a guy who usually I want to play on big slates, but I'm very open to Miles Turner tonight. And if we have no Justin Holiday, I would take a long shot play on Duarte, just because the 3-point shooting against Milwaukee I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're going to clog the lane. They're going to make you shoot threes. So Turner and Duarte stand out a little bit for me. But I think the natural thing is Brogdon on the Indy side, and then you're going to want one of Middleton or Holiday or both. And I think you're going to want more than the field is going to play of Bobby Portis, who could go completely nuts. Even though I know centers struggle against Indy and all that stuff, I mean, they're going to play big. Bobby Portis is projected currently to play 30 minutes. He could play 34 minutes. And Bobby Portis in 30 minutes, to have only a 36 fantasy point projection feels very low for a guy who's as good a point per minute producer without Giannis in the court. Like I think it should be closer to like 42. So if I really think his average should be about over 40 fantasy points at 7,100, that's just the median. I think we have to play a lot of Bobby Portis. So that's the way I have this ranked. And then I absolutely am fine with mixing Grayson Allen in, whether in or out of a stack at 4K. Definitely has the upside to put up 35 or so. And I think this is where you really want to target. I just have trouble on the Indiana runbacks, but I do have this feeling about Miles Turner tonight. It's a gut feeling. I don't know, and it's a little bit based on the history. It's a little bit based on the fact that they get these threes. But I do think that that's a guy who we should probably have a little bit of interest in. So that's where I'm at with that one.
New Orleans, Oklahoma City.
We just got news about something in this game, by the way. And by the way, Tyler Hero was just ruled out as well, which is going to open up things for Miami, which we should probably revisit at the very end of this little broadcast here.
Yeah. What news came out from the Oklahoma City?
I just saw that Pokusevski got projected for a bunch more than I was expecting, and I'm not sure what happened to make that happen, to be honest with you. Maybe there was some speed. Let's see here. Let's see. No, I don't know. I just saw that his projection just skyrocketed from like 8 fantasy points to 17.5, which is kind of relevant.
Yeah. So for me in this game on the New Orleans side, the only guy that really showed up for me is Joval. And Oklahoma City, I am getting a bunch of the value there, but it wasn't going to be Pokusevski. So maybe the news is something about this, because the two guys who are showing up for me are Kenrich Williams and Man. Is that the Trey Man? I forget which one it is.
Trey Man.
Yeah, so Kenrich and Man, and I suppose that Shea is always in play, but Kenrich Williams and Terrence Mann were the two values in this game for me.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I don't know what the Kenrich thing always feels. First of all, I love this guy as a real life player. Why don't we get him on a team that can actually use like a good 6'7" man? I'll take him on the Lakers because he plays good hard defense and he's a scrappy guy. But I don't know if we should be relying on him for fantasy production at these ownership levels. Like it'll drop again. There's going to be more value throughout the day. Mm-hmm. I would probably do my weird Poku thing. Maybe it's too big of a slate. But he has been getting a little bit more run. He put up 23 fantasy points the other night. And he did it with one for 5 from the field. The guy can create. It's just a matter of how much they let him sort of go. And they don't ever really seem to let him do that. I don't really understand. I know he's young and he's too skinny, but give the kid 24 minutes and he'll put up, he'll put up a good game for us. So I'm sort of leaning a little Poku over Kenrich, but they're both in play. And again, Poku is more of a long shot play. Don't trust on that one. But Kenrich is no lock either, by the way. We've seen this guy play 30 minutes and put up like 5 fantasy points a million times. And I don't know that he's going to play more than 24 minutes. So I think this is going to be value we probably don't want at the end of the day. Same thing with Darius Baisley, who's fine, but I don't think we need to do that. I don't know. They feel a little too crowded to have as much. They're projected a little too high for how crowded they are. I mean, we've seen them with a lot less bodies available, not even projecting this high. So I'm a little confused at why it's happening like this. So it's throwing me for a loop a little bit, but I do love the idea of playing Joe Val on FanDuel at 7,600. Okay. I think Joe Val will kill this front line. And I think Josh Giddey is your natural run back over there because he's 5,800, which is more than fair for his skill set. 67 on DraftKings with a tighter salary cap is a little harder, but I don't think Giddey's like an amazing play, but I do want to take advantage of the fact that New Orleans doesn't play defense. So one of Shea, it's all FanDuel plays for me, but one of Shea, or Giddey on actually you can use Shea on either side, with Joe Val on the other side is what I would do in this game.
Yeah. San Antonio, Charlotte. I'd love to do it. I would just love to play like a 1% owned DeJounte Murray at 10-3, because who in their right mind is going to do that?
Right.
But I don't think I can do it. I'd like to have something on Charlotte I could do, and I don't have much over there, so I'm probably just going to end up passing. But I will say that DeJounte Murray is a 10-3 player, believe it or not. Yeah. So I don't mind that. Maybe something like maybe Terry Rozier or something like that. But I don't know. I'm probably just going to pass this.
Yeah, I think if I had to pick anyone, it would probably be, I don't know, Hayward or Bridges stand out to me the most, but maybe Rozier. And then you've got Plumlee possibly coming back to muck things up. Washington's back. Jalen McDaniels is back. Everybody's sort of back for these guys. It's too bad because, Sheets, you and I both made a nice little run that one night. I actually, in all my other lineups but that one, I actually cashed in both big ones because I had JaVale McGee in all my other, lineups basically that weren't lineups. Okay. But I mean, we really almost did it there with that book night play.
Yeah.
I wish they would give that kid a little bit more run. But it's really hard on Charlotte when it's this crowded outside of Hayward or Bridges, who are going to get the minutes. It's a good matchup for both. That's why they even come up at all. I'm always a fan of playing Lonnie Walker at low ownership, and I'm always a fan of trying to fade him at high ownership. So he's a potential play tonight I think we can look at. But I think it feels a little thin for this slate. And I think Devin Vassell is a really good large field tournament play. There are going to be times where he plays 18 minutes, and there's going to be times where he plays 30 plus minutes. And he has a ton of skills, and this is a great matchup. So I think those are the interesting value possibilities. Doug McDermott belongs in that conversation as well. But Keldon Johnson getting no ownership and DeJounte Murray. And I love DeJounte Murray, but the problem with 10-3 is so him versus Embiid, it's so much harder for him to get to 70 than it is Embiid. But at the same time, this is a great matchup for him. And Embiid has the rib issues that he may be limited a little bit. But I think Keldon Johnson is probably the best play in this game, especially on FanDuel where he's 5,300. It wasn't too long ago on full slates on FanDuel, we were paying 5,600 for Keldon Johnson at 40% ownership. And now we're getting him at 5%, maybe 10% at the end of the day ownership. And I think that he's got upside, especially in this, truly awesome matchup. Now they can spread the minutes out. But I think DeJounte is interesting. I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull the trigger on it, but I love the idea of it. And if I did, I probably would want to run it back on the other side. That's the only issue. I think on FanDuel though, DeJounte is 9,300. There's a big difference between those prices. The problem is on FanDuel, everybody else is very cheap as well. So you just sort of have to rank it out like that. But I think there is some business to do in this game. And if there's anybody announced out, which is definitely possible, we should be ready to pounce on whatever we can. Because I'm looking for any excuse I can to play any of these Charlotte guys. Because on FanDuel, there's that big 1,500 today. And I don't mind the idea of playing Murray or Johnson and then running it back with one of these guys. I just can't find the guy whose price makes sense to me. So, but it's one we want to keep.
There's a 1,500 on FanDuel tonight?
1,500 for 200K.
I've never played in one of those, and I've been away for a week. Oh man, I don't know. I'm feeling it. I don't know. We're gonna see.
I have a travel day too. I have to go back. We're finally up with our lease in this little place, so I'm gonna have to go back to LA. So, but I'm ready for it though. I think this is
what it looks like. Yeah, Minnesota, Denver. This is here's my thoughts. I mean, this is gonna sound very beginner like, whatever. But I just Jokic is showing up as the best play, right? Best raw points by some amount. I don't think that I want to pay the 12-2. I think that at this particular point, I'm not too thrilled with what you're going to need to do to pay the 12-2. I mean, I don't really want to play Kenrich Williams, like you mentioned. And I don't see the value, at least right now, out there to justify paying a 12-2. Like, I would much prefer to get some, multiple of those, Drew Holidays and Malcolm Brogdons and 7K guys like that in, than the Jokic play, even though the Jokic play is obviously really, really strong. So that's my initial take. The other guy on Denver that still rates to be okay is Bones Highland. Get your opinion on that. And on the Minnesota, for whatever reason, I'm not getting it too much. So for me, this game was a little bit either Jokic or nothing for me.
Yeah, I have a little bit on the. I'm going to try to make Jokic work, but I'm also counting on there being a ton of value to open up.
Right.
I mean, look at these guys. I'm sorry to bring up again. First of all, we all know how much I love to try and attack opposing center versus Cat.
Yeah.
But Jokic's last 5 games, 62, 72, 63, 75, 73. I mean, and the 73 was in 30 minutes, when he took 14 shots, he put up 73 fantasy points. And he didn't even get the triple-double bonus. It's like he could have had 85 in some of those games. I don't know. For me right now, it just feels like the surest thing, and sure points are so hard to come by these days.
True.
So I really do like the Jokic idea. If Russell is out, I will take another shot on Anthony Edwards. I know it hasn't paid off as well as maybe some of us had hoped. Some of it was game flow related. Some of it was him playing poorly. But I think that would be the only guy I would really take really, really into strong consideration. And I think that you can argue for Cat on FanDuel, but it just doesn't work out that well for guys against Jokic very often. So I would rather play Jokic. And by the way, he's much easier. Jokic is much easier to get in on FanDuel, even though the pricing is similar. It's 11.5 over there, but it's just easier. It's a more, flexible, payout, price per player, dollar per player. So I'm going to try and get Jokic, but I don't have a whole lot of interest in anything else in this game.
So Washington, Sacramento, I mean, Beal looks like an okay play. There's just not a single game on his card here that you want.
Yeah.
So I'm just I'm just going to be like a baby and just not play him because of that. Sacramento. The other thing I'm watching, by the way, if what's his name, Kuzma remains out. I don't know, KCP at 4,100, Demi Advia at 3,700. I guess they're okay. And this is the type of value that is kind of existing at this particular moment. So it's kind of not too enthralling. And Sacramento side, likewise. I mean, you get Mitsu, who I guess Mitsu could be okay. Well, by the way, I want to talk to you about something else, but Mitsu looks okay. Devion Mitchell looks okay. I'm a little bit confused. So I watched your thing also, and the other day, and I was really nervous. I mean, I played badly, just expecting him to be like 60% owned, and I'll just make it work with the rest of my lineups. He was like 3,800, and nobody played. Not nobody played him, but like
he wasn't starting.
I guess that was it, right?
And he only got him. He really got there largely because of the blowout run.
Okay.
I mean, he was getting there anyway per point per dollar, but I don't know if he was going to play. In non-blowout games, he's basically played 22 minutes or less in all of them.
Oh, okay. So that was it. That's why he didn't get that. That's why I didn't get on. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's up to 4,500 now. I don't really want to do that. So I mean, again, not the greatest game for me.
The problem with this is Sacramento is messing everything around with their lineups, with their rotations. We have no idea who's playing and who's not. Then they're getting blown out, so it's confusing all the numbers. All the projection systems are going to be wrong with this, which should mean there's an edge for us to get it here if this game stays close. So what I would do is I would get some shares of Buddy Hield if you're playing a lot of tournaments. I would play a little bit. I would play some Halliburton. They just got smoked the other night. It's just what happened. And it's going to happen. Sure, it could happen again, but they're playing at home this time. And we really don't know how the rotations are going to go. They change it every day. We don't know who their starting lineup's going to be. You're not going to know it probably until, 6 to 9 Eastern or whatever. Harrison Barnes has been playing, but not closing in close games. Alex Len is occasionally getting a bunch of minutes, and then other times, or occasionally getting enough minutes to get there. And then the other times he gets nothing. It's tough. I think Alex Len is mildly in play. Davion Mitchell's minutes are a little more like secure, but they're secure in like the low 20s, and that's okay. But there's not a whole lot of stuff for him to do with these other guys out there, so it's just a little tricky. And it's probably worth speculating on, but it's as it stands right now, unless we hear something early about the lineups, I think it's going to be hard to do anything with it, except for maybe taking some long shot tournament plays, like which aren't even that long of shots. I think Halliburton would be my favorite. And the weird one was we had the Terrence Davis going completely nuts, and then they just stopped playing Terrence Davis. And it's not like it's like too early in the season to tank. I don't really understand what they're doing, to be honest with you. So I think that it's like Gentry trying to figure them out, but also just doing kind of stupid stuff, in my opinion, and not letting the guys play through when they're anyway. It's just hard to figure out for DFS. There's no way. I mean, look, KCP can always get there and whatever, but that's when I want to play him at 3,100 when he can always get there, not at 4,100. And even with Kuzma out, you know what I mean? It's not like he's going to have to take shots. He did take 10 threes the other night. That's kind of refreshing, but he had 6 fantasy points the game before that, Sure, blah, fine, but I think there's going to be better value. I do think Beal is going to go off at some point. I have Beal as a guy who's on my list today if Kuzma's out. And if Dinwiddie, if Kuzma's out, I'm going to go back to Dinwiddie again. I think the minutes projection and theirs is off too, because they got smoked the other night as well. So, and then I think that every night, literally, you could probably play one of Hafford or Harrell or Gafford, and you're probably going to end up half the time with a guy who's going to get you 7x. It's hard to know which one that would be. I would prefer Harrell, but I think they're both viable. But I don't think anything is a must in this game. It just feels like a high total game with a lot of pace that we probably should have interest in. But it's just unless we know Kuzma's out or somebody for Sacramento sits or they change the starting lineup, I don't know what we can do with it right now.
So LAC, Utah, see, these last 2 games are like a little bit annoying to me because I like to play these late games. I like to wait on these late news. But like as it stands now, not much is going on. So, but I do want to, so let's talk about LAC for a second, because obviously what's really important is whether Paul George plays, right?
Right.
And as opposed to somebody, and again, just to let you know that I was watching what you were recommending, and I was also on what's his name, partially because you were on him too, the Marcus Morris the other night, and he did not disappoint.
No, he's great.
Yeah, they moved him up in price though at 5,400, and that's I don't know if I can do that with obviously if Paul George plays, but it's, I guess, something you have to wait on. Do you like anything from this? I really didn't get too much here. I mean, so usually I have Mitchell and Gobert projecting as pretty good plays, but today they're not quite projecting as well. And considering the fact that if Paul George doesn't play, this game could be really ugly. I don't know if I want to do Mitchell or Gobert, but the thing is that every time that I say that, the Utah blows them out anyway, and Mitchell has 50 points anyway,
Right.
So it's not going to discount them, but I don't have much else from the Utah side, if anything. And I guess we just have to wait to see who plays for the Clippers, no?
Yeah, hopefully we could know earlier because it's a travel day and it's going to Utah, and it's all the revenge for Utah in this game because of the playoffs. So it's kind of an interesting spot, but to me, that would make me even more likely to sit Paul George. Like, I think they're going to get rolled in this game. I really do. And it is hard to figure out what to do with the other guys. I think that if no Paul George, I still would play some of the Morris and Mann situation. Potentially even consider, if there's no Batum, some Brandon Boston in the potential that there is a blowout. But as it stands right now, it's hard for me to have a ton of interest in. And they did raise Mitchell and Gobert's price up to enough to where it just makes it feel a little less exciting, but they're both viable. I would lean the Mitchell route. The Clippers basically played Gobert almost off the court in the playoffs because as much as we think he's so versatile and so great defensively, they just sat everybody at the 3-point line and then just made him chase him around and basically nullified any value that he has whatsoever. So I don't know. The best play in this game Jordan Clarkson or Mike Conley or Royce O'Neal, that's probably where I would go. I just don't think I need to do any of it. If we do find out that Paul George is out, I will happily go back to Morris and Mann.
And what playoff revenge was that?
Last year.
Well, because Utah beat them?
No, the Clippers beat them.
I didn't even know the Clippers beat Utah.
Yeah, the Clippers were in the conference finals last year.
Against Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
All right. Memphis, Portland. I'm on brand, so there will be nobody played for Portland in this game. Memphis. Well, by the way, the reason why they're playing, I just don't like playing teams on back-to-backs after playing overtime games the day before.
Yep.
That's just the way it's going to be. Lillard had a decent game, though, if I'm not mistaken. Good enough. He still has not been the Lillard that we've been used to for the last couple of years.
Nope.
I guess watch news on Memphis, I suppose. I do see that Jaren Jackson Jr., I think on FanDuel was a better play. I think.
Yep.
And did Adams sit or did he play? He played the other day. Okay. Yeah, so I don't have much in this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd love to do more with the later games, just like you. I do think that what we can do is, I think the price on Bane is very fair. I think Jaren Jackson is in play on both sides, but especially FanDuel. I think that Bane actually could put up a huge game against these guys. Not huge, but like 45 plus. I think he's got that in him. It just feels a little bit, everybody's priced more reasonably. I don't mind Brooks either, but I just kind of feel tired chasing a guy who's like trying to get 5X for me and gets in foul trouble pretty much all the time, it feels like, between he and Jaren Jackson. But I would go, my level of interest on DraftKings would be Bane, Jackson, Brooks, and then on FanDuel it would be Jackson, Brooks, Bane, probably. It's close actually with Bane over there. It's really close between those three, but I think they're all viable. And Portland, maybe not taking anybody, but like Covington is still 3,800, would definitely be a value play if we didn't get a ton more news that you can sort of put in there. But I just can't get to anybody else exactly. I think Larry Nance is like a fine long shot tournament play at this price, but I think you're talking about long shots only. So I'm not all that interested in this game. And then I do have to mention that Nurkic is 5,900, even on a back-to-back on FanDuel, he's 5,900. That's another guy, between Nurkic, Jokic, and the other one who Joe Val, we're going to have to make a decision on FanDuel because all three of those guys are just drastically underpriced. So that's what I would say about this one.
Okay. So again, 6 o'clock, we have 6 or 6:30, 6 o'clock, we'll go live and hopefully we'll have some news to make hay with. But for now, for me, it's, the Indiana Milwaukee game with the Drew and Chris Middleton stuff, Dallas, Brunson and KP. That seems to make a lot of sense. And those are the key, value pieces that injuries and stuff have led you on. Jokic race to be a good play. And then the rest we're just kind of waiting on right now for me.
Yeah, and I haven't got the updated numbers on the Miami situation yet, but I do think that we're probably going to be looking at a little bit of, I think Duncan Robinson is a little bit of a better play. I think Max Struss and Gabe Vincent are the guys to consider because of no Hero and no other perimeter players for that team.
Hey, you know what, by the way, I do think it just makes Lowry just a better player.
I totally agree.
Yeah. But one thing we have to start thinking about, we thought about this seems like 2 years ago, maybe it was last year. One way to approach the NBA is with all this news that comes out is to wait for the late games. But look, I was in Florida for a week, and one of the things I took a vacation from was freaking COVID. You know what I mean? Like, not say it doesn't exist there, but let's just say it's a little more chill. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And then I came back here, and it's like I get back here, it's 40 degrees. I got notification on my text, like 30 people I know have COVID. This is after I landed, right? And then I'm looking at every team is out. Like a hockey game was canceled. I think it's like a real possibility that some of these late games are freaking are fragile. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't wait too long to play some of these late games. You might end up getting a freaking cancellation. So I think that's to be considered also.
Absolutely. I actually mentioned that on the show yesterday.
Okay.
I worry about it. And also the sites are not going to always refund everybody. They might do it the first time it happens this year, but they're not going to do it after that. So just be ready for it. And don't expect necessarily you're going to be free rolling if those games don't happen, you know. It's just not what's going to happen in my opinion.
Right.
But I agree. It's a funny line we have to try and cross. But if we like the later games today a little bit better, maybe it would be more interesting than it actually is today, I guess. Anyway, guys, well, good luck to everybody. I have the same things as Sheets. FanDuel, Jokic, Brunson, Triple J, Nurkic, Lowry, Jovel, Murray, and Keldon Johnson. Holiday, Middleton, Lowry as the main plays on DraftKings. Bobby Portis being the other one I like quite a bit. Brogdon, and then we have to figure out the value later, I guess. All right, so we'll see you guys shortly. We're going to be doing an NFL video, and we'll see you at 6 Eastern. Good luck, everybody.
All right.